Hello, Professor. So we chose sentiment analysis case one. So talking here is Steve.
Jack.
Rebecca.
And Madeline.
So what is sentiment analysis, you might ask? Sentiment analysis is the use of data collection technologies such as natural language processing, text mining, and data mining to categorize and analyze customer satisfaction or lack thereof, of course. And to talk about it more on a basic level, so base level sentiment analysis relies on determining the polarity of a customer's review, categorizing their sentiment into the respective fields of satisfaction, consisting of dissatisfaction, neutral, and satisfied. Or you could use more. And more advanced sentiment analysis looks beyond the scope of text polarity and aims to target more specific behaviors than the customer may be feeling towards the product.
One company that has utilized sentiment analysis in their business and was mentioned in our case is the department stores Macy's. Macy's, as of 2015, was the largest department store by retail sales in the United States, and they have over 584 stores. Macy's utilizes sentiment analysis in two key ways. The first way they use sentiment analysis is when dealing with consumer satisfaction with their service. Consumer satisfaction is extremely important because if consumers are not satisfied with their experience, they will go to other competitors. Macy's is able to get around this problem by tracking their customers' experience using sentiment analysis and responding accordingly. For example, tracking Macy's mentions and looking at the words around it for emotion and modifiers can give them an idea of their consumers' satisfaction. Many mentions of returns with a negative modifier, for example, might indicate that people are generally unhappy with the returns policy, which Macy's can then fix. A second way Macy's uses sentiment analysis is by looking at customers' opinions on product assortment. Slow sales are a huge problem retailers face, which is usually due to product assortment. By using sentiment analysis, Macy's can know what products will fit their consumers' needs, thereby solving this problem. These two aren't the only ways Macy's and other establishments can use sentiment analysis. It can also be used, for example, when planning to open a new restaurant.
So we looked at some Italian restaurants in the Fairfield area and compared them to using sentiment analysis to determine different information that we could find about them through different reviews. Some of the popular and common Italian restaurants in the local Fairfield area consist of Malto Mozzarella and Wine Bar, Quattro Pazzi Cafe, Brick and Wood, Avellino's, Centro Restaurant and Bar, Luigi's Restaurant, and more. So we looked at the ratings for the top 3 Italian restaurants, including Brick and Wood, Quattro Pazzi Cafe, and Lina's Trattorino. And looking at these restaurants, a few of the factors that we looked at while examining the reviews included food price, food taste, the location of the restaurant, and the atmosphere, as well as what the menu contained. And throughout the reviews, a lot of people had different opinions on how they felt about these things. So when looking at and analyzing those criteria, we feel that all of this data is very important for a new startup Italian restaurant in the Fairfield area to include and implement in their menu and in their design, and work towards fitting this all into their restaurant in order to have the most successful startup. Especially with such a large number of Italian restaurants in the area, it's crucial to make sure that the customer is satisfied. Otherwise, they have so many other options of other restaurants they could go to.
So there are a lot of pros to sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis helps companies gauge customer opinions without reading through thousands of comments online, which helps the company save both time and money. Once companies gather this data, they are usually able to look at it in real-time speed and have really in the moment understandings of what the customers are thinking about their products or their brands. And analyzing all this data is great for helping companies identify problems within their own company and improve their business strategies. It also helps improve product quality because companies can make adjustment to products they're offering based off of what consumers have to say about them. So some cons to sentiment analysis is that it's not always accurate because right now it's hard for the technology to analyze variations in language such as slang or sarcasm. It's also hard for the technology to capture human emotion when it's just looking at texts and not actually looking at the consumer's emotions when writing a review. And also, this data is only helpful if there's a lot of data points, so a company with only a few reviews won't be able to have a good understanding of the general opinion towards their brand or their product. Current developments with sentiment analysis primarily are focusing on figuring out a way to also measure voices and facial expressions in addition to any text written. This will allow companies to truly get a more accurate understanding of consumer opinions, and from this, they'll be able to segment their consumers based off of emotions and feelings rather than just basic demographics. So we have some discussion questions to discuss among ourselves. So our first one is how does sentiment analysis relate to your major? So I'm a marketing major, so this will be a key tool in understanding what the consumer wants and ensuring that any company is applying the knowledge that they receive and feedback that they get from consumers and applying that to business strategies.
The second discussion question I'd like to talk about is how do you think sentiment analysis impacts your daily life? For me personally, I'm not really sure how much it impacts my life that I can see, but I think a lot of sentiment analysis is kind of what's happening in the background. Like if I'm posting online that I don't like the product assortment in Macy's, that they don't have enough of what I'm looking for, then them being able to use that data and figure it out over time.
So to add a comment to the second discussion question, I think we as users of social media contribute to sentiment analysis every day through what we may visit more on some pages and then visit less, or maybe companies will use our data and see what we dislike or like. So we may not be actively doing sentiment analysis, but we're contributing to the greater effort that companies use for it.
And the third discussion question is what industry do you feel could best use sentiment analysis?
From my research, I feel like for this question, the industry that could best use sentiment analysis is probably some type of store that relies on reviews and different forms of social media posts to determine their like advertising campaigns or how to directly target you as a customer. So I feel like if you leave a review on like a website like Amazon or Yelp, that could affect like a restaurant or a store's the way they present themselves or like what they carry. So I feel like in that sense, that's the best industry to, for using sentiment analysis.
All right, and those are our discussion questions. We just want to thank you so much for giving us your attention virtually. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Thank you.